An amazing streak came to an end at last weekend's Portland Open. 15 years in the making, 264 events long. We're talking about Nate Sexton's cash streak, and it all wrapped up in the same state where it started. Let's have a chat with Nate and talk about it.
Yeah. So, the streak was basically, just for anybody who doesn't understand it, when you're playing professional disc golf, if you finish in the top 40%, you get paid. That's a PDGA rule. So basically, my streak says that since January 2008, every tournament I competed in, I think it ended up being 264, that I was able to finish inside that top 40%. So that's kind of what it is. But it came to an end in Portland. The writing's been on the wall for a little while. I've been trying to preserve it. And I had a couple pretty epic finishes to try to keep that going. But the courses, the courses are getting really long, and I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. That's just progression, and that happens to every athlete in their career, I think, where you kind of get this feeling like, I think maybe the game might be starting to leave me behind. And it's like, that's just life, and I'm not even salty about that. It's just, that's the skill that's being selected for a little bit more, where 400 feet maybe isn't getting you anywhere anymore on some of these designs. So yeah, I missed it. I got 62nd place. I was a bit emotional about it just because, it's something that I've been proud of for a long time, as it kind of became, I didn't really even notice it. Like in the first 5 or 6 years, I remember being like, yeah, I don't really miss cash. Why would I? It wasn't quite as competitive. I was a young player. I was playing really well. But yeah, then it became a thing where everybody knew about it after a while. So for the last 4 or 5 years, it's been like top of mind. Anytime I'm playing poorly, or I have a bad start, or I'm, kind of fading at the end of a third round or something, then it's very, very top of mind. And like, come on, man, well, I've got to check the scores. I got to keep this thing going. That's kind of how it's felt to me. So I'm super proud of it, but yeah, it had to end sometime. And it turns out that was last weekend.
You said that there were some close calls, especially in recent years when this thing was sort of top of mind for you.
Yeah.
Is there any event where you were like, whoa, that was really close, but I narrowly escaped?
Oh, so many.
So many.
I had Jonesboro, where I had to birdie the 18th, which is the hardest hole at Jonesboro. And it turned out in the end, it turned out I didn't have to, but the information that I had at the moment said I needed to, but somebody else made a mistake, and it turned out I would have been okay with par. But at the time, it didn't show that on UDisc. So in my mind, I had to make that birdie. 2 years ago in Vegas, I had to birdie the last 4 to get in, and I knew that I had to. Like, I looked at the phone and said, okay, well, you need all 4, and I got them. This year in Vegas, I had to make about a 25-footer into like a ripping headwind just to go on to the final day. OTB, I parred the last 11 holes to make it on the number. So any bogey in there would have ended it for me there. So yeah, lots of close calls. Unfortunately, not where I want to be in the tournaments, but where I was. So, there's been a ton where it's been in jeopardy, and I was proud of myself for being able to kind of rise to the occasion. But in Portland, the hole I dug was a little too deep. I had a little glimmer for a second. I birdied the first and second hole, which are 2 of the hardest holes in that final round. I was thinking I needed to shoot a 10 under, which was the hot round of the tournament on that course, to make it through. And I was right. So it would have taken a 10. And then I got some bogeys. And then when there was 10 holes left, I turned to my caddy and said, well, technically there's still 10 holes left, so we can still get to 10 under. And then I birdied 5 in a row. So for a little bit there, it was like, oh my God, like if I can just do this, that would be so epic. If I could just be back against the wall, 10 birdies or die, and actually get them. But unfortunately I couldn't. But I did get those 5. So that was exciting. That was fun to kind of feel that intensity and go, holy cow, like this is, halfway there, let's keep going. And unfortunately, then I tried to get super aggressive on the 14th, and I missed the Mando off the tee, which pretty much ended it for me. Once I missed that Mando, there was no birdieing.
Ironically, you kind of have the monkey off the back a little bit. So curious, does it change the way that you attack a tournament or strategize a tournament?
I want it to. I'm going to try to allow it to. I'm pretty set in my ways, obviously. I think my play style comes from just my personality, and I feel like I've always been a guy who I hate failure more than I love success, if that makes sense. I hate bogeys more than I love birdies. I think maybe the other side of that coin is like a Simon Lizotte. The guy loves birdies more than he hates bogeys. He's willing to take the biggest risk possible for the glory of that, which is awesome. I love watching him play too. But my makeup is a little different, where I feel like I like the heat of embarrassment in the moment of making some stupid bogey is a more intense feeling to me than the feeling of like, yeah, 50-footer for birdie, cool. You know, like I love birdies too. But my whole play style, I think, is dictated a little bit by that. But I'm trying to let go of that. And I certainly do feel like the streak weighed heavy on me at times, potentially influenced my decision-making when I could have thrown a more fun shot, or I could have played more for a win, or whatever it is. And I don't really regret that, but that's just kind of how it was. And Kale LaVisca, who had a 300-plus tournament streak end 2 years ago, he kind of echoed the same thing as we were texting about it. He was saying, man, for the last couple of years, it's all I thought about. And now I have so much more space in my mind when I'm playing. So I'm not going to set out to miss cash or anything, but I have been saying that I'm hoping that this can usher in my fast and loose devil may care phase. I feel very secure in my legacy in this game, you know, if that makes sense. I don't feel I have a lot left to prove. I want to play well. I want to have fun. I want to show off for the fans. I want to be able to, you know, put my best foot forward and do the best I can. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm retiring or anything, but I don't feel like this big pressure to like, if you don't get out there and win one more, everyone's going to forget about your say, whatever, you know, that stuff doesn't bother me. So yes, I hope that I can get over that hump, throw some more confident backhands, throw more backhands overall, because, oh my goodness, these 11,000 footers, when I'm throwing these forehands all through practice is so much harder for me than the tournament. My arm every week is just like aching, and, you know, I wouldn't say injured, but just I'm throwing farther on the practice day than I am on the final day. I'll tell you that. Like, and it's just hard to keep it going. So I'd like to balance my game a little bit more, rebalance it. There's been times in my career where I've thrown more backhands than I'm throwing now. I think part of that is about protecting the streak, where it's like kind of retreating into my shell a little bit and being like, no, I'm not going to go out of bounds here. I'm going to hit this gap, make sure this, whatever. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. If I can find a way to make it fun, I'd like to play more risky, but I also think there's a possibility I'm like, this is terrible. This brings me no joy if I'm taking all these bogeys. So we'll see. I want to endeavor to change.
Your streak started at a time when media wasn't that big of a deal. Social media was even still kind of in its infancy, especially in disc golf. Post-produced, like there wasn't a ton of post-produced, so
No.
People didn't have the opportunity to see players at the high level really showcase their talents. And to your point, like a Simon Lizotte, you know, some of his stuff made it onto those early films, but if you were doing those things, nobody saw it.
Yeah.
Right? And so like, but what people could see was the results. And it's interesting that your style of play, well, I mean, first of all, it did shape a very successful career to date, which is pretty awesome. Right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to hear you talk about how like you want to entertain the fans. And in this day and age, there's social media, there's post-produced, there's live, there's all these opportunities now for you players, the top athletes, to like make the highlight clips, make the ESPN top 20 type thing. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of interesting to hear you talk about maybe a change in the Nate Sexton style of play. You know,
I hope so. I mean, I've always just been the type of guy where it's like about how well I can sleep at night. You know, it's like I can sleep fine with 2 birdies and 16 pars. It's like, yeah, okay. Like it wasn't the best round. That's okay. Triple bogeys got me up.
Oh,
I take a triple bogey. It's not easy for me to just let go of that and go home and be like, okay, yeah, you know, mistakes happen. I'm more like, just like, what were you doing? What, like, why did you, and it's like, that happens. If you try to play aggressive, that happens. And yeah, I'm just trying to kind of look back on what was a great part of my career and a great streak, and just sort of take a big breath out and go, all right, let's see what we can do now.
What would you say to a young prospective pro wanting to emulate a Nate Sexton type cash streak?
It's hard to imagine in today's game somebody going 15 years, over 15 years without missing the cash, just because there's so much parity and there's so many good players. You don't really have to be that off these days to fall out of that money. You see good players miss the cash every single week. As far as what advice I would say to somebody, it's just like, practice your fundamentals, play to your strengths, play the percentages, where you're sitting there and you have to try to like you have to be like impartial and not be seduced by the thrill of like some super risky shot. Sometimes that is important to take that risk, but it's like all about that calculus for yourself, what you're trying to decide makes sense for you. And I at least endeavor to try to play the percentages, and try to think about the outcomes that are possible with a given shot, and what makes sense for me to shoot the best score the most times out of 10.
I think we need to get you in more skins play so we can see the crazy side of Nate Sexton.
Well, there's two sides of that too. I just played a skins in Portland, and it did not go well. So sometimes I can do that, and sometimes I just go OB every single hole.
Do you think this changes your goals or your mindset in competition moving forward?
I think it does. Yes, I hope it does. As weird as it was, I spent the whole day at the course that Sunday, and I was joking around with people saying, man, 20 years of this, and the boss finally gave me a Sunday off. And I was just joking around with people because I never missed a cut before. I've cashed in. I've missed cash a couple times early in my career, but never at an elite major big tournament. I'd miss cash at B tiers and C tiers in the early days. So it was weird just kind of walking around and just being a fan, and all my peers were really and the fans, everybody was kind of being really, they're aware of the streak. So everyone was very cool and just, saying congrats and whatever, just wishing me well. But yeah, I hope that it can change my focus and my goals. I would like to, pick and choose my tournaments and play the ones where I have a little bit more of a shot, ideally. Like, looking at Waco, I was kind of in the hunt. I got 9th place. Like, if the shots aren't out of my distance, like, I feel like I can compete with pretty much anybody. But yeah, once you get out, especially that course that we played the first 2 rounds in Portland, not to say it was bad, just to say that my skills were not very effective at netting any birdies.
Do you think there's a trend for competition golf that's just going longer and longer?
Oh yeah, undeniable. I don't think anybody would say anything other than that. It's getting super long. I mean, we're in the era of the 900 plus foot par 4. I don't want to be in that era, but I'm here. It's like that's so far for a par 4, and we're doing that regularly now. And I understand why, because there's guys that throw consistent 550. And if the par 4 is 750 like it used to be, which is like kind of what makes sense for my skills, where I can maybe go 450 to 500, maybe if I get a good one off the tee or I lay down a roller, and then I have like a Firebird into the green. It's like hard for me to find times to throw anything but destroyers sometimes on some of these courses. It's like destroyers, and then eventually lay up your 90 footer from circle 3 and hopefully get out of there with your par when things are going well. And it's almost inconceivable on some of these holes for me to reach the green in 2 shots on some of these par 4s. And that's kind of a new and depressing thing, because it was like there was always holes where I'm like, yeah, it's too risky, I'm not going to go for it. But it was like my choice. Now it's like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't.
Quite a streak, if I'm not mistaken, 15 years.
Yeah, a little over 15 years. I was 22 years old when it started, and I'm 38 now. So definitely was great. It was fun, and yeah, mostly more than anything, I'm proud of just like the mental strength that it takes to like never go, screw this, I'm just throwing rollers, because I see my competitors do that every week. When you're playing poorly, or not when I'm playing well, but like when I'm back there near the cash line, you see people giving up all the time, and just going, whatever. And I never did that. And that I'm proud of that fact. Like not only did I never I was somewhat lucky and somewhat, whatever preparation you want to call it, not to like blow out my shoulder or twist my leg, or that kind of thing could end it too. Any injury that would knock you out, or a really bad sickness or whatever in the middle of a tournament that would force you to drop out. I remember playing through a sports hernia in 2015 in that world championships and still finishing 10th. And all that's the kind of stuff that I look back on and go like, yeah, that's hard to do. Talent be damned, skills be damned. It's like there's a toughness aspect to it that's what I feel the most proud about, is that just to be able to go in there against super hard wind, or a course that doesn't suit me at all, or terrible rain, or my arm hurts, or I'm just like feeling kind of sad, whatever it is, it's like there's any kind of barrier that could stop an athlete from performing. And of course I had bad tournaments, but I was always able to kind of grit it out enough to stay in that top 40%.
In the span of your streak, what stands out as the biggest highlight?
Oh gosh, I mean, it can't be anything other than the USDGC, winning the USDGC. That's the highlight of basically my sporting life, and potentially even my life in total. Like I don't want to. My daughter being born, getting married, those were also huge moments for me. But winning the USDGC was like such a dream come true. So that's probably it for me. That's kind of where any disc golf related, what's the best moment? That's what I'm gonna say.
It's cool because you're so invested and active in all aspects of the game that I guess it'll be interesting to see where you really apply your efforts moving forward.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm interested too. I know the future's bright, but I don't have like a exact roadmap for what comes after DGPT, but I know I have options on the table. I'm excited for it. One of the more mind-blowing comments that I really appreciated when I posted about the streak was Simon Lazat, who we just talked about, where he said, your streak is more, your cash streak is more tournaments than I've ever played. And it's pretty crazy to think. I mean, he's not an old man, but he's not a young man. He's a father. He's in his 30s, early 30s. But that's like a guy who has been playing disc golf since he's a kid, and you think, wow, really? Like that's pretty amazing. I've cashed in more tournaments in a row than Simon Lazat has suited up for in his life.
Hey, I don't even see any gray on your face yet, dude. Like you've got a ways to go.
Yeah,
you got a little bit.
I still got lots to give. No, I'm not. Yeah, it's like it's bittersweet, and there's part of me that kind of feels like it's this that makes it bigger than it is, maybe, and it's kind of like, oh, the bell tolls for me, like my time, But then I think Macbeth misses the cash, and all these guys miss the cash, and I've been kind of wrapped up in this identity as a player, being so consistent, but everything ends, and it doesn't. I throw the disc just as good as I did yesterday, so it's like just kind of keep soldiering on and see if I can hopefully unlock some different strategies and sort of miss a couple more caches. Let's see if I can miss a couple more.
The field has changed pretty dramatically just in the last year or two, and you're being a guy like you who sees it both in commentary and in competition. I mean, what does the landscape of competitive disc golf look like right now?
Yeah, wow. I mean, unfortunately, I mostly see it through a computer screen these days. These guys are so good. Only Waco did I really get up there and mix it up in the top groups this year so far. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I think half of the top 20 players in the world are like coming on the scene in the last 2 or 3 years. Like your Gannon Burrs, your Isaac Robinsons, in a major way. These young guys that are younger than 25 years old. I mean, there's really no other way. unless you're Eagle McMahon, who kind of feels old by now, even though he's not. It's a lot of guys that are new, and I mean that's sports always, but I think that maybe there's more guys that are like truly top talents that are in that age class right now, and so many guys like your Wysocki's and your Lazats that are getting towards 30 and not giving up an inch as either. So there's Heimberg as well. I mean, he just had his birthday. I think he's like 27, maybe. I don't know. You might know that. He's in that neighborhood. He's a kind of an old guy now compared to some of these other guys on the groups with him. But the distance between like 10th and 40th is generally like, I don't know, 10 shots.
Yeah.
Or something. It's not as much as it was once, where you're like, the guy who won, like it'd be like Rick and Paul are like 8 ahead of everybody. Then there's a couple guys, then like 20 more strokes back is still in the money, potentially in the old days. And those days are gone now. So it's like you really have to be playing pretty solid disc golf to cash. I feel like it's been around 10-20-ish averages to be on that cash line. And the winning average is not getting better really than it ever was. It's still like 1055, 1060, something like that. It's just there's a lot more guys in between 1020 and 1060 on a given weekend, where it's real crowded. One little mistake can drop you quite a ways.
Well, you've covered a ton here. Any parting comments before we wrap it up?
Oh, I mean, nothing more than just to say thanks to all the fans who've encouraged me for a long time about this specific thing. Every time I'd have a close call, I'll see it all over social media, like Sexton did it. And it's like, who else is getting patted on the back for taking 45th? So that's cool. That people were invested in it and that people cared enough to, root me on even when I wasn't not even close to contending, back there just bogeying and missing putts and just like trying my best to keep going. So I want to thank all those people, and just to thank all the volunteers, all the people that made all those tournaments possible. I'm in kind of a looking back few days, just kind of thinking about all those journeys and all the things that I've been able to do thanks to disc golf.
Well, on behalf of all the fans, everybody here at Innova, Nate, congratulations, man. That was a heck of a streak.
Thanks.